Welcome back, folks. As I'm filming this, we're just getting into the start of a new year, and first off I wanted to say well done for making it through the last one. That alone is something to be proud of. So in the previous episode, we talked about getting past the fears that prevent us from starting a project. Once you've made that decision to start, or perhaps you're one episode into that project, you might have to ask yourself, what am I actually doing? What am I actually doing? And that's the point I'm at now. In order to know what to do, I really need to define my idea. Let's think of this in terms of motivation, how to define the intention behind what you want to do, and medium, the nuts and bolts of how you make that intention into a reality. Or if you prefer, we can think of them as the destination and the vehicle that gets you there. We don't need to know exactly where we're going, or what the best way is to get there, but if we just get moving, we can refine that stuff along the way. So here's me right now. I want to make an educational video about getting started on a project. I want it to be playful and engaging, with visual illustrations to break up the talking head segments. This got me as far as writing the first draft of the script, which definitely counts as progress. However, as is usually the case with first drafts, it was not good. So what was wrong? What did I need to do to fix it? I first tried some solemn contemplation and hoped the script would just fix itself. This did not help. I then tried scribbling down a bunch of notes to summarise my thoughts so far, and then attempted to explain them as clearly as I could to a very patient friend. Putting it all into words brought me the clarity to go back and make a few changes to my plan. I realised I want the viewer to feel like we're working through this together as we go, which means I'll probably be talking about the video in the video, being open about my process, fears and failures, and ensuring the video has a narrative arc to it. So now I'm coming to you from draft 2 of the script, and it's better, but it's still not there, and I'm not quite sure what it needs. Sometimes your motivation will suggest quite clearly what you need to do. Let's say, for example, you're writing a song to express your anger. Maybe that immediately puts you in mind of dissonant guitars and blasting drums. But a lot of the time, it's not immediately obvious what you need to do, or you're not quite sure what angle you want to take on your intention. So I thought I'd try and brainstorm a title for this episode with my longtime friend and writing partner, Josh.
What we're trying to do is two things. The first is to get the bad ideas out of the way so we don't have to think about them anymore. The second, and this is where it really helps to have an additional person with you when you're doing this, is to throw things at each other in a way that kind of puts both minds into a sort of creative trance.
Like, how do you get past that initial stage where you're afraid of going wrong?
To quote four-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman, ain't nothing to it but to do it. You have to, if you're going to be writing something, it's write 100 of them. If it's not working, put it down anyway.
Writing down a bad idea isn't going to cause your heart to just stop and you fall down dead. That was something that I think initially attracted me about your description of this brainstorming process, of the idea of like getting the bad ideas out first.
Doing it wrong has its value, I guess, in the sense that it stops you from getting precious about doing it right. If you want to relax yourself, the first thing you should do is figure out what the opposite to the solution you're looking for is. Don't be too surprised if the objective of the session changes halfway through the session. That's fine. The energy of a collaborative creative session should basically be the energy of a good drinking session. That's the point at which your brain can actually get out of its own way and start properly churning its way through the various different half-formed ideas and expectations that you've got around the project. Yeah, nothing has to be right now. And the process of sort of churning through all of the stuff that isn't right will help you whittle it down to the point where you actually know which direction you're going to go in. So let's say, assume you start at a point and you want to get to another point. There's 2 points. You're not going to do this. You're going to do this. One of the maddeningly non-linear parts of any creative endeavor, I guess, is that you get 3/4 of the way through, you think that you know what you're doing, and then you discover that you don't. And you have to go back and spend a lot of time undoing and redoing things. This process helps you to avoid that because it can help you to spot the things that are not working much more quickly. If you're really struggling, it's probably because you're trying to do the wrong thing, or you're trying to do something and it's not quite time to do that thing yet. So if you're trying to come up with a name and you're really not getting anything that you like, it might be because you haven't decided what are the parameters for what we're going to call this. So if that's happening, use the energy of the session to figure out the stuff that you've not figured out yet. And usually, if you go on long enough, you'll get to the point where that stuff falls out anyway. What you're doing is tricking your brain into making connections that it wouldn't otherwise make. And that means lots of diversions. It means lots of going completely off message, but hopefully by the end of it, you will wind your way back to where you thought you were going to be going in the first place, and everything will be okay.
So while throwing title ideas back and forth, we realised that this episode isn't just about starting projects, it's about defining them. At that point, everything suddenly became a lot clearer. Okay, so now we have a title, but more importantly, we also have a much stronger definition of what this episode's all about. Draft 3 is coming along nicely. There's one more component that we all need to get our projects up and running, and it's one that I think a lot of creative people struggle with, particularly in times of mental stress, and that's maintaining your enthusiasm. If your motivation is the way you're going, and the medium is the vehicle, then enthusiasm is the fuel. Creativity is an incredibly personal thing, and so when you reach creative blocks, it can hit you hard, especially if, like me, you suffer from depression or anxiety. So just as you need to develop your motivation and medium toolkits, you need to learn what helps you maintain your enthusiasm. You might benefit from the drive and accountability that comes from working around friends who inspire you, or going back to old projects and reminding yourself that you do know what you're doing, or maybe reconnecting with the work of people who inspired you to create in the first place. All that said, this stuff is very personal. What might be inspiring to one person might be intimidating to another, so you need to find out what works for you. This part of the creative process can be the hardest to get a handle on, so please be patient with yourself. If you're struggling, that doesn't mean your creativity is gone forever. Just be good to yourself and it will come back round. It's a part of how you relate to the world. It's not something that you can ever really lose. Now, there's something I haven't mentioned yet that a lot of people consider a central part of the creative process. Inspiration. It's that mysterious force which brings us the truly great ideas out of the blue, and which separates geniuses from mortals. And I think it's kind of a load of rubbish. Because yes, ideas can just pop into your head out of nowhere, and that can be really rewarding, but far more important is the ongoing work of playing and experimenting and just making your mind into a fertile place for creativity to grow. And it's not even really a matter of waiting for the great ideas, because an idea is only as good as what you do with it. There's nothing earth-shatteringly brilliant about... just as there's nothing amazing about one specific acorn. But when an idea takes root in fertile ground, and it gets the time and nurture it needs to develop in the context of its environment, you can get something amazing. So if you're starting something new, or you just feel like you're back to square one, maybe now's a good time to listen to yourself and really get to know your motivation. If you're stuck, don't be afraid to let yourself play, talk things through with people, and try out new things for your medium. Some will work, some won't, and some will teach you new things about your project. And above all, don't waste your time waiting for inspiration to come to you, when you could be having all that fun of going out and exploring. And as you take on the next creative challenge, and the next, don't forget to feed the enthusiasm that drove you to get started. Take care of your creativity, and it'll take care of you. It doesn't matter if things aren't perfect. As long as you've got that momentum, it's easy enough to adjust your direction as you refine your definition. Any way you can, just follow your enthusiasm. thank you for joining me for another one of these videos. I've been really enjoying making them, so I hope you've been enjoying watching them too. If you have, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell down below, and if you've been working on anything new, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your projects. Okay, see you in the next one. There's a parakeet here with a lot of opinions. The great interrupter of takes. Now, there's something that I haven't yet mentioned that a lot of people consider... Okay then.